Hello everyone, ex-Wallkill Bethelite here. And probably one of the biggest reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses feel like they have the truth is because they read in the Bible where Jesus went preaching. He went on a ministry. And Jehovah's Witnesses have books and literature, and they go from door to door passing out this literature. Different countries, they have literature in different languages. And a huge part of what Jehovah's Witnesses do in their worldwide preaching work has a lot to do with the publications that they have. The Watchtower, The Awake. How many people know about Jehovah's Witnesses but don't know about Watchtower and Awake magazines? How many people know about Jehovah's Witnesses and don't know that they have literature that they pass out? That's synonymous with Jehovah's Witnesses. That's hand in hand with Jehovah's Witnesses. Is literature. You don't have Jehovah's Witnesses established the way they are without that literature and the publications that they use. Everything that they do surrounds it. Even the Bible studies. They're not using the Bible alone. They're using publications along with the Bible. So that is Jehovah's Witnesses. Such a major part of that organization is publications and literature that you can't separate the two. That's how Jehovah's Witnesses became who they are today, is through magazines, booklets, and literature. How did they accomplish that? Was it through God's hand? Oftentimes, you would think of something accomplished through God because it couldn't be accomplished by man. There's no way man can do this, so it must have been accomplished by God. So essentially, we would look and see what Jehovah's Witnesses have done. Could they have done it without God? Jehovah's Witnesses have been doing what they do from door to door off the backs of essentially slave labor. That's how they get it done. They get it done by using people to work, printing that literature, printing those publications. They don't pay any of the people involved with the literature that you see them standing next to with the carts. They don't pay any of the people involved with how they got the literature to begin with to go door to door. They go door to door off the backs what could be compared to slave labor. That's not something that you could only accomplish with the hand of God. You have companies today sending their work overseas. Why? Because they get it done cheaper. You have companies today that, without the help of God, have their company set up where they can have sweatshops. And they can give people very small amounts to get work done cheaper. That is how dishonest man gets ahead. We need to find a way to get our work done as cheap as possible. And America has minimum wage. The minimum you can pay someone to get a job done. Well, the company can't figure out how it's going to expand, how it's going to get its goals accomplished, and pay someone minimum wage, so they find a way around it. Let's send it overseas. Let's send the work overseas and get it done cheaper. Well, no one would think that a company getting ahead by getting work done cheap is doing it by the hand of God. So Jehovah's Witnesses and everyone that's going door to door with a bunch of watchtowers and awakes and publications all around the world, they're all doing it the same way that all these other companies get ahead. Watchtower, Jehovah's Witnesses, they get ahead the same way all these other companies get ahead, and that's with slave labor, essentially. These people aren't necessarily volunteers. Jehovah's Witnesses won't use the term slave labor. They'll use the term volunteer. Now, we could essentially just look and see if there is a such thing as a volunteer that works 8 hours a day, 40 plus hours a week, and that's mandatory. There's no such thing. They're lying to you when they say that they get all this done by voluntary means. You have people that have to work, wake up at a certain time, be at work at a certain time. They can't leave to go and just visit their family when they want. They're working a job, essentially. That's what that is. 40 plus hours a week, mandatory. That's a job. That's not a volunteer. So there's no such thing as a volunteer organization. Comment down below if you can find one that requires you to work 40 plus hours a week, wake up at a certain time, be at work at a certain time. You can't leave work until a certain time. You can't go on vacation until you build up vacation time to travel, to be away from work. No one hearing this would think that that's voluntary. That's a job. Just so happen you're not paying these people anything. So Jehovah's Witnesses have been going door to door, doing the cart ministry where they stand next to the carts with magazines. And the only way that they got it accomplished was through dishonest means. Even if I could find people that were willing to work for me and to volunteer, and I demanded of them, you have to work 8 hours a week, 40 hours, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. You need to build up vacation time so you can go on vacation. If I demanded that of people, anybody would say that I'm taking advantage. That's not what volunteering is. I'm stretching the limits of the term. And I'm actually taking advantage of people. Why don't I just pay them? The factories that they have in New York that they call Bethel. You can't we all know you can't run a factory on voluntary work. They have truck docks in these facilities called Bethel. You can't run a truck dock voluntarily. People have to be there when the truck arrives. They can't be there when they want to be. That's impossible. You can't run factories voluntarily. You have deadlines. Work has to be done so that it can be shipped at a certain time. It can't be done based off of whenever people are available to show up. If Jehovah's Witnesses had produced the literature that they have based off of what we would call voluntary service, if they truly did that, then you could say, wow, how are they running a whole operation based off people giving what they can, giving what they want? Then you could say, well, maybe God has got a hand in this factory running, because all these people literally can leave when they want. They're volunteers. That's not what happened, is it? These people are under the same exact conditions that anyone would be at a job. You have to be there at 8 o'clock and you can't leave until your shift is complete. End of the week, you got to have 40 or 40 plus hours in. That's a job. That's not voluntary. When Jehovah's Witnesses call that volunteering, they're stretching the truth. They're lying. They don't want people to know that they have accomplished the work that they have accomplished off the backs of free labor. Free labor that doesn't meet the requirements in the United States. The requirements in the United States, minimum wage. You have to pay people minimum wage. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses, their organization is dishonest because their organization is telling the government that this is all being done. This is all voluntary. Don't worry, this is all voluntary. And by voluntary, we think of people that just come, help out when they want, and then leave when they want. That's essentially what Jehovah's Witnesses are telling people, because they know when other people hear the word voluntary, that's what they think. But it's not the truth. It's a job. That's how they are acquiring these publications and the literature that they have. Is people are working a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4. People are working a job. People have overnight shifts. People, that is not voluntary. And all Watchtower gives people is a meal. Now, this is where we get into the cult. Because people in the cult don't tend to have a high value of themselves as individuals. So they willingly accept things because they've been brainwashed. Because they've been programmed to think a certain way. So within the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, you have people who think that it's okay to send your kid out, so that someone can get 40 plus hours a week out of your kids as long as they just give them something to eat. As long as they just give them a little room to squeeze in with other people, that's okay then if they do that. That's where the cult mindset comes in. Where people will do whatever their leaders say. However, they try to tell the outside world that this is done voluntarily, making people think something's going on that's not. That is at the heart of Jehovah's Witnesses. Everything they do, they're doing off the backs of free labor. Everything they do, they're doing with the same concept, the same business mindset that all these other companies have that we think are dishonest, that try to get work done as cheaply as possible. Would that be okay then? If a company shipped work overseas in a sweatshop, would it be okay if they called it voluntarily? Well, if we don't pay them and we call it voluntary and we give them something to eat after the end of the work shift, and that's all we give them, something to eat and maybe just enough where they can buy toilet paper or toothpaste, shaving cream, give them enough per month so that they can do that. Well, it's all okay now because we call it voluntary. Everything that these companies are doing that Americans hate because they're taking jobs from Americans and sending them overseas where they get it done cheaper. Well, if they did it in the name of religion and they called it volunteering, well, then it's all okay. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses have been doing for so long. Everyone that sees a Jehovah's Witness and you see them carrying a magazine or a booklet, they ask them how they got it done. How'd you get all this stuff, all these publications? How are all these things being translated and distributed in all these different languages? Is it the hand of God, or is it being done off of free labor? I could accomplish a big company if I can get a bunch of people to work for free. Anybody could do it. You're not required. You don't require God's help to get work done for free. 2019, we're going on 2020, and Watchtower is still, Jehovah's Witnesses are still to this day, everything that they accomplish through free labor. If this organization was really run by God, then it would be capable of paying the people that they require to be at work 8 hours a day, 40 plus hours a week. About the only thing that you could maybe compare to voluntary with regards to JWs, maybe the door-to-door work. You have people that can go door to door and knock for about as long as they want to. But then Jehovah's Witnesses had to change that. They needed to make requirements because they couldn't get that done just voluntarily. They need to, in order for you to get this preaching work done, we need to create titles such as auxiliary and regular pioneer. And in order for you to get these titles, you have to meet a requirement. Watchtower can't get what it's gotten done off true voluntary work. It needs to set requirements. It needs factories. And at these factories, it needs people to work a full job for free. The companies that ship their work overseas and have these sweatshops, they don't check on the well-being of the workers. It's the same with Watchtower. Watchtower has people in America working full 40-hour work weeks for free, and whenever they want, they can get rid of them. Just like a company would have a layoff, this is what Bethel of Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what they do. They work people 40 plus hours a week for free for years, and anytime they want, they can get rid of a wave of them. People start getting older, they may start getting more expensive as they get. We can just get rid of them all. This is the same thing companies do when people get older and they don't want to pay their health insurance. So they look for ways to get rid of them. This isn't done in a divine fashion. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't getting these things done in a divine fashion. They're getting them done by any means necessary. And that is by tricking people into, if you want a title, auxiliary, regular pioneer, Bethelite, you have to put in this much work. They trick people. They use mind games. You're volunteering for the preaching work. Okay, well, volunteering is me signing up for this, how much time I want to work, and then leaving after I'm done. That's not what happens with Jehovah's Witnesses. You have a supervisor. You have a full-blown regular work structure at Bethel. You may compare it more so to mandatory community service. Courts will mandate someone get this much done in the community. These are the amount of hours you have to get. Otherwise, there's a penalty. So if you were involved in a crime of some sort, you may get community service. Court says this is the amount of time we want accomplished by this date. Otherwise, there's a penalty. That's more closely in line with the auxiliary and regular pioneer ministry, is mandatory community service. So Jehovah's Witnesses use mandatory community service to get things done. That's not voluntary. That's mandatory. If you don't get this much done, we will announce on the platform that such and such is no longer a pioneer. And we all know that in the cult's culture, that could cost you associates, that can cost you friends. If you're thinking about dating someone, that may cause that person to look elsewhere. Oh, you're not pioneering anymore. Oh, well, here's the penalty for that. The exact same with mandatory community service. So what Watchtower is doing in the name of religion, they're using means that we do not look favorably upon. When you take the religious veil off of it, you take the religious veil. Oh, well, you guys are just using mandatory service. That's courts mandate people to do things like that when they have done a crime. You have to get so many hours in. Oh, you guys are using a glorified sweatshop to get all this literature sent all over the world. Anybody could have done that. Companies are doing it now. Oh, but we feed them and we give them a little, really, really small room. And, if a person likes them, they may take them on a trip or something. It's still free labor. If people like them so much, they could just pay them minimum wage. It's obvious. It is so obvious that Jehovah's Witnesses cannot get what they're doing done without free labor. They can't pay them because God is not backing them. They wouldn't be able to accomplish what they accomplished if they weren't using dishonest business practices veiled under religious terms like pioneer, auxiliary pioneer, and Bethelite. All it is, slave labor or sweatshop or free labor or mandatory community service, whatever term you want to put on it, that's all it is. And that's the heart of Jehovah's Witnesses. They wouldn't be who they are without that. So that, along with the doctrine, along with the child molestation and everything else that's been going on within it is clear evidence that Jehovah's Witnesses are not of God. Clear evidence. God wouldn't need to take advantage of people and have people working for free and then get rid of them whenever they want. Bethelites are gotten rid of whenever Watchtower wants. They don't have to have done anything wrong. And Watchtower does not check up on these people to see if they're doing okay. That's not even Christian at all. But yet they veil that under Christianity. Things that clearly aren't Christian. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Ex Wallkill Bethelite signing out.